Good afternoon, Professor and classmates to our mini forum about how the expression Pura Vida can have different meanings for Costa Ricans and for tourists, and how this difference can cause misunderstandings in intercultural communication.
So we chose this topic because Pura Vida is one of the most common and symbolic expressions in Costa Rican culture. However, we noticed that tourists often use it differently, sometimes interpreting it as a casual or vacation phrase, while for Costa Rican it carries deeper cultural meaning related to respect, gratitude, and a positive outlook on life.
About our goal, we wanted to understand how these differences in interpretation affect communication between Costa Ricans and foreigners and how they reflect cultural values.
We did a survey to 10 Costa Ricans, and most people said in question 1 that was, when you say or hear Pura Vida, what does it mainly represent? According to the responses, the most frequent answer was a way to express gratitude or positive vibes, followed by a cultural identity. And with this, we mean something that represents Costa Ricans. And some people see it as a life philosophy, and very few answers where it's just a phrase. For Costa Ricans, Pura Vida is emotionally meaningful and culturally significant. About the second question of the survey, that was, what words do you associate with Pura Vida? We have, in order of most common, we have gratitude, happiness. In second place, we have tranquility or calmness, freedom, simplicity, and we didn't have any selections of responsibility. Now, about the third question, that was, how would you explain Pura Vida to a foreigner? Most explanations describe it as a greeting, a lifestyle or cultural attitude, and a way to express well-being. The last answer was a positive expression used in many contexts. So this shows how the expression is connected to cultural values and national identity. According to intercultural communication theory, this is related to hosted collectivism and value orientation toward harmony and community. We have another 2 questions in the survey, but we didn't receive any answer of those questions.
On the other hand, after analyzing all the interviews with the tourists, we were able to identify several clear patterns. Most of them said that before coming to Costa Rica, they thought Pura Vida meant freedom and enjoying life because you only live once.
Yes, and many of them also connected the expression with a relaxed lifestyle and being happy without too many worries. For them, Pura Vida represents a positive and free way of living.
Also, they said that after visiting Costa Rica and interacting with local people, they noticed that Costa Ricans use this phrase very often as a greeting, to say goodbye, and also to mean that everything is okay.
Exactly. Even though their interpretation stayed positive, most of them realized that the expression is used much more in daily communication than they expected.
Yeah, for example, here's one of the interviews.
Okay, the first question is, before coming to Costa Rica, what did you think Pura Vida means?
I thought it meant you only live once.
Okay. When someone will tell you Pura Vida, what do you think it means?
It means simple life.
Okay. Do you associate Pura Vida with any specific values? For example, possibility, freedom, or I don't know.
Just freedom and just generosity and kindness.
Okay. The last one is, after visiting Costa Rica and interacting with locals, have your perception of Pura Vida changed? How?
I think I'm starting to understand the concept more when you use Pura Vida, and it's a way of communicating with people with simple language without knowing exactly good Spanish, which is good for a tourist. And yeah.
Okay. Where are you from?
Poland.
Poland. Oh. Well, that's all. And thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, this basically represents what most of the tourists express in the interviews.
Yeah, these results show that tourists mainly understand Pura Vida as a symbol of freedom and enjoyment of life. However, their interpretation is still more general and emotional compared to the deeper cultural meaning that Costa Ricans usually give to this expression.
Now we will compare the answers of the survey and the interviews and the perspective of Costa Ricans and tourists. We can say that both understand Pura Vida as something positive, but they give it different meanings. Tourists usually interpret it as freedom, enjoying life, and living without worries, while Costa Ricans relate it more to identity, gratitude, and daily social interaction. This shows that the same expression can carry different meanings depending on cultural background.
Also, from an intercultural communication point of view, this difference is important because tourists often use Pura Vida in a casual and emotional way, without realizing that for Costa Rican it also expresses respect and cultural identity. Even though the intention is positive, the meaning behind the expression changes depending on who is using it and in what social context.
Also, this comparison shows that how language reflects culture. A simple phrase like Pura Vida can represent a lifestyle for tourists, but for Costa Ricans, it represents values and national identity. Understanding this different interpretation can help improve intercultural communication because it allows both groups to communicate with more awareness and respect. About conclusions and recommendations, the results of our project confirm that Pura Vida has different meanings for Costa Ricans and tourists, even though both understand it has something positive. Costa Ricans tend to connect expression with identity, gratitude, respect, and the way people treat each other in daily life. And tourists, on the other hand, usually related to freedom, enjoying life, and having a relaxed and happy mindset during their vacation. This difference clearly shows how culture influences the meaning we give to words and expression. So this also related to high context and low context cultures because Costa Rica works more as a high context culture um, where words carry shared cultural meaning that is understood within the community. Tourists come from outside that context, so their interpretation is more emotional and personal. From this project, I learned that communication is not only about speaking correctly, but about understanding the cultural background that shapes meaning. Even simple expressions can have deep cultural value.
Also, our findings show that tourists usually interpret this phrase in an emotional, in an individual way, while Costa Ricans give it a deeper cultural and social meaning. And well, this connects to what we study about cultural values in communication, especially the difference between individual and collective views. Well, for many tourists, Pura Vida represents a personal lifestyle and a way to enjoy the moment. And for Costa Ricans, it represents shared values such as kindness, respect, gratitude, and national identity. And this also relates to the idea of meaning negotiation, because people create meaning based on their cultural experiences. Juries are not wrong in their interpretation, but their meaning is incomplete compared to the Costa Rican perspective. And well, for me, this project shows how important it is to avoid assuming that words mean the same thing for everyone, and that understanding these differences helps avoid misunderstanding and improve cultural relationships.
In conclusion, Pura Vida is much more than a greeting or a popular phrase. It is a clear example of how language and culture are deeply connected. This project helps us understand the concept of intercultural communication competence, which means being able to communicate with people from different cultures with respect, our awareness, and openness. Even though tourists and Costa Ricans use the same expression and both attach positive emotions to it, the meaning behind it is shaped by culture. The difference does not necessarily create conflict, but it shows the importance of cultural awareness. Through this project, we learned that communication is not only about vocabulary or grammar, but about understanding values, identity, and social meaning. And this experience helped us see how intercultural communication happens in real life, not just in theory.
Well, we recommend that tourists receive more cultural information about everyday expressions like Pura Vida, so they can better understand their real meaning and use them more respectfully.
We also recommend that both locals and visitors stay open to learning from each other, since this can help avoid misunderstandings and improve intercultural communication.
And finally, in our communities, improving intercultural communication starts with respect and cultural awareness. Understanding these expressions like Pura Vida can help build better relationships between Costa Ricans and tourists. And thank you so much for listening and for being with us today.